clotting syndrome, very rare, but I mean, it can be fatal. So I guess my first question, what people are wondering, was it a mistake if they got AstraZeneca? I'm
Yeah,
one of the ones who did get AstraZeneca. Was that a mistake?
I don't think it was a mistake, and here's why. For the time you spent being immunized against COVID, you didn't get COVID. So you could have waited for an mRNA vaccine or one of the other ones. Who knows how long that would have taken? Could have taken weeks, maybe even months. And in that time, you have a high risk of getting COVID and possibly being in an ICU bed and possibly having long COVID and possibly dying. Now, that's dependent upon where you live and what your actual personal risk is. But for the most part, the risk of COVID is real. Having said that, you also did something else. So right now we're seeing a declination of cases around the country as we pass the peak of this third wave. And that's what allows us to have this luxury of saying, well, risk is coming down. And so the need to accept the risk of a vaccine is less and less. That was made possible because of the economic restrictions that reduce incidence, but also a tiny bit because people like you got the AstraZeneca jab, right? So there is some heroism here in what you have done in allowing society to get back to normal. So that was not a mistake. So two things there. One, you drove incidence rates down, and two, you didn't get COVID. Now the other big thing is, will you get your booster as an AstraZeneca shot or something else? It's looking more and more likely that at least some people, probably most, will be boosted by a non-AstraZeneca booster. That is not a problem in my mind. In fact, the basic science suggests it might even be better. There's a big trial going on in England called the COMCOV trial, looking at exactly what happens if you boost AstraZeneca with something else. And there's every expectation that not only will it work, but you may even get a broader kind of immunity. So at the end of the day, those who got AstraZeneca might end up being ahead of those who didn't.
Now, should AZ-Vax folks be alarmed at all or worried? Like, do you think this is going to shake vaccine confidence at all?
Well, if you already got your AZ shot, you're probably in your 4 to 28 day or 4 to 20 day VIPIT window. Wait it out and you're fine. And what I'm more concerned by is that people will be afraid to get any vaccine given the inconstancy of messaging. So the risk of increasing hesitancy is real, which is why I think the government tipped towards not having more first doses of AZ to begin with, because they don't want to put that fear in people's minds any further. The damage has been done. So the only thing left to do is to make sure people get a vaccine that they are confident in, and that we fix this messaging problem so there's consistency and lesser use of unnecessarily panicky words, right? So it's amazing to me we keep making these same mistakes. We keep panicking people when we shouldn't. But what people have to understand is that they're seeing science unroll in real time, and they're getting to see how the sausage is made before it's processed through the communications filter. And that means that if you haven't got experience in dealing with the way scientists talk, then you may be a little panicked and shocked by what they say. But in general, every medical product has gone through the same process. Ultimately, we all do a risk-benefit calculation, and that risk-benefit calculation shifts over time. So what changed before and now? Before, the risk of COVID was high. Therefore, the risk of getting a bad reaction from a vaccine was comparatively low. Now the risk of COVID is less because people like you got the vaccine, and so in comparison, the risk of the adverse events is higher. What's also changed is that we think the risk of this VIPID thing is actually higher than we thought. It's not 1 in 10 million or something, it's 1 in 200,000, and some people say it's 1 in 26,000 or so. And the third thing that's changed is that before, like when you got your AZ shot, you would have had to have waited how many weeks to get an mRNA shot. Now that we're going to be flooded with mRNAs, you don't have to wait as long. So I reiterate, it was not wrong for you to have got the shot, because then all of the information pointed to getting it, and frankly, you would have had to wait longer to get a different vaccine, and who knows what would have happened had you waited. Lengthy answer.
Great. Excellent. No, that's perfect. I think it'll put a lot of people's minds at ease too, for the most part. One more question: could there be, like, are the AZ vaccinated people just as protected, or could there be a chance that we might have to say, okay, you know what, you're going to have to get a full round of a non-AZ vax? Could that be a possibility?
Well, anything's possible. However, the data suggests that one dose of AZ is actually better than one dose of Pfizer in terms of real life efficacy. And the boost window is wider for the AZ, so that we see that 12 weeks and sometimes even longer gives you a higher efficacy if you wait that long between doses for AZ versus the unknowns for the Pfizer and Moderna vaccine. What I think is going to happen is people will be boosted by whatever vaccine is available, probably Moderna or Pfizer, and then months later, we all line up for a third shot to account for variants. So no one's getting out of this without getting an mRNA shot at some point, probably. Right? So let's not get too overly energized by this. You got some immunity in you, that's fantastic. This is going to be a routine thing over the next couple of years, I think, and we'll just take whatever's available when that happens.
Yeah, do you think this is going to, last question for you, do you think this is going to be like a flu shot type scenario where we do have to get a booster at least, you said probably at least a third one, but do you think it'll be a yearly thing?
Yes, I suspect it will be for a couple of years, but it won't be interminable. I think at some point the disease is going to retreat sufficiently that it won't be as necessary. That will take some time, though, because it is percolating in various corners of the globe, and so this pandemic will probably be rendered officially over sometime next year, but it's going to be a problem for a few more years after that, and that will require boosters.
Right. That's excellent. Thank you so much. That's perfect.
Great.
Yeah, that is great. Thank you so much. Yeah, so rather than just do the whole interview, I think I'll just